Sisodia is saying views.
तो संविधान इसको बचाएगा। भारत में बाहर आए तो आपके प्यार की बदौलत, आपके प्यार के साथ साथ भगवान के आशीर्वाद की बदौलत, सच्चाई की ताकत की बदौलत, और सबसे बड़ी चीज जो बाबा साहब ने जो सपना देखा था कि कोई तानाशाही सरकार आएगी तो तानाशाही भरे कानून बना बना के जब नेताओं को, विपक्ष के लोगों को जेल में डालेगी, तो इस देश का वो संविधान जो बाबा साहब ने बनाया था उनकी रक्षा करेगी। एक आम आदमी जो तानाशाही के खिलाफ बोलेगा, तानाशाही के खिलाफ बोलने वालों को अगर सरकार जबरदस्ती जेल में डालेगी तो संविधान बचाएगा, और संविधान बचाएगा। और संविधान का रही आज इस संविधान की ताकत से, सच्चाई की ताकत से मुझे देना नहीं। मैं आपको यकीन दिलाता हूँ, इसी संविधान की ताकत से हमारे प्यारे नेता अरविंद केजरीवाल जी भी बाहर आएंगे। टूटेंगे, अरविंद केजरीवाल जी चले, जेल के ताले टूटेंगे, जेल के ताले टूटेंगे। ये संविधान की ताकत है कि हमारे प्रिय नेता, इस देश के लोकप्रिय नेता और इस देश के एक बच्चे के लिए शिक्षा से काम करने वाले नेता अरविंद केजरीवाल जी जल्दी बाहर आएंगे। और बाकी बात में हम बात नहीं करेंगे, बहुत भावुक मौका है सबके लिए, लेकिन एक नारे के साथ यहाँ से आवाज दे दीजिए, अरविंद जी तक भी पहुंचे और तानाशाह तक भी पहुंचे कि कह के जेल में भले डाल लोगे, लेकिन एक सच जो पिछले 10-12 साल से कायम रहा है वो कायम रहेगा कि भ्रष्टाचार का एक ही काल, भ्रष्टाचार का एक ही काल, भ्रष्टाचार का एक ही काल। अरविंद केजरीवाल, अरविंद केजरीवाल, अरविंद केजरीवाल। मिलते हैं सब लोग। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Let's go straight across to Ananya. I think Mr. Sisodia has said that he wants to end by celebrating the victory of democracy over dictatorship, and he's ended his address there, preferring to end it on a upbeat slogan. Let me bring in Ananya. Ananya, what are you really getting to hear from the AAP camp on the strategy ahead, and how are they seeing this?
Well, definitely, Rahul, this is a significant order that boosts up not only the Aam Aadmi Party legally but also politically, because, one of their most senior leaders comes out of the jail almost after 17 months of incarceration, and they are very, very hopeful that, they had to move a bail application for Arvind Kejriwal. Remember that he was denied a release a few days ago from the Delhi High Court, and now the next step was Supreme Court, and they were, anticipating this particular order so as to, take this next step with regards to the STM itself. And now, since this order has come out, this has boosted not only them politically but also very, very legally as well. And hence, they would be all hands on the deck would be there to actually file this particular plea for Arvind Kejriwal. They are very, very hopeful that they will be, securing a relief from the Supreme Court for the Delhi Chief Minister as well. But today, this order becomes very, very significant because though the court has not gone into the merits of this particular matter, though the court has not touched upon as to what the money trail involved, the evidence in this particular case, but the court has only gone on the fact that, there was a speedy trial that has to happen, and that is something that is a part of natural justice and should be given to anybody, whether it's the CM or a common man under Article 21 of the Constitution. And hence,
of course, the Supreme Court making it quite clear that this bail is unconditional and also has been granted because Mr. Sisodia deserves a speedy trial. Let me go across to Anshul. Anshul, what are you picking up from the ground there?
So yes, just a few moments ago, Manish Sisodia walked out of the jail finally after 17 months. There was a handful of workers of the Aam Aadmi Party that had gathered over there, but since it started raining, the kind of celebration that was being expected from the side of Aam Aadmi Party, that has not happened. Over the next few hours, it is expected that Manish Sisodia will first go to the residence of the Delhi Chief Minister and will meet with his wife, and post that he will go back to his family, and then tomorrow it is expected that Aam Aadmi Party will conduct a grand celebration welcoming back Manish Sisodia, because he is not only one of the most senior leaders of the Aam Aadmi Party, but also he is the person who will now be at the helm of the things as he has now come out. At this point in time, as we speak, Atishi was the person who was looking at the day-to-day work of the government. Now that would eventually be shifted to Manish Sisodia, and he will yet again be back to the helm of things of the Aam Aadmi Party and also of the Delhi government. It remains to be seen how eventually things will pan out for Manish Sisodia, as yes, the allegations against him are still very, very severe in nature, and the bail that has been granted as the investigation of both the agencies, that is CBI and ED.
Before he was incarcerated, Mr. Sisodia held about 17 to 18 portfolios, if I'm not mistaken. He in fact had a huge number of portfolios under him, and he was the Deputy Chief Minister. Is he going to be reinstated in that capacity?
So yes, I took this question to Saurabh Bharadwaj today, and he said that when Manish Sisodia went to jail, they made sure that his khadaos, as he mentioned, were put on the throne of the Deputy Chief Minister and the ministerial post that he was handling, and these were just makeshift arrangements that were made. And now, since he is coming out yet again, he will be handed over those responsibilities back, and he will be the point person for the Aam Aadmi Party in the absence of the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal.
Well, let's quickly go across to Kamru Chaudhary, who joins us for more on this. Kamru, you of course been part of the India bloc, given the fact that you're a Congress sympathizer, member of the Congress party in the past, etc. And of course we also have Ajay Alok with us of the BJP. Kamru Chaudhary, the narrative that is being spun right now is that this is a victory for the truth. Even though the Supreme Court hasn't gone into the merits of the matter. So on what basis is this being seen as a vindication for the credentials of Mr. Sisodia, who's been under the scanner in connection with the Delhi excise liquor policy case?
Rahul, let me first not get into the merits of the case, whether Sisodia is an accused or will he be proved guilty. That only time will tell, and the courts are educating on that. But the most important thing is that starting from Hemant Soren to Arvind Kejriwal to Manish Sisodia, all these are stalwart leaders of the opposition who are directly criticizing or directly in the line of fire of the Modi government. We all must understand that if there is an iota of truth in the allegations that the investigating agencies are pinpointing against these leaders, then credible evidence should have been supplied to the court of law till date. You see the judgment of Manish Sisodia today in the bail case in the Supreme Court, wherein the Supreme Court judges have all criticized the agencies, in fact criticized indirectly the Modi government for having failed to submit any credible evidence in the cases. They have even suggested that you have kept a Deputy Chief Minister behind bars for the last 17 months without even submitting a percentage of evidence wherein Sisodia can be directly implicated in this case. So this all we feel, along with many of our Indians, we feel that this is a vindictive approach that is being adopted by Narendra Modi government, and I say that the investigation agencies of India have been weaponized by this regime. I'm very sorry to say, because the agencies that are there, they need to act as per the guidelines of the Constitution.
Mr. Chaudhary, again, you said that you're not going to go into the merits of the case, but you've sort of elevated this to that particular stance, suggesting that this entire case was goosed up against Mr. Sisodia by vindictive agencies at the behest of the government at the centre. So that in itself is a qualitative comment really on the case itself, the merits of the case. So let's not go there. You're saying that basically because the agency has not been able to produce proof in a court of law and has not been able to kick off the trial, which shows perhaps positive evidence that Mr. Sisodia has managed to secure bail, which in some ways proves that maybe there is no case against him. That's what you're saying. Okay, let me bring in Ajay Alok to respond to that. I think that's the way the courts are looking at it. If there is such evidence, so much of it, Why hasn't the trial begun at the instance of the Enforcement Directorate in this particular matter, sir?
Well, Rahul, if you look into the Supreme Court's observation, he is being considered as a criminal, but he is being given bail. One, there are too many evidences, more than 400 evidence, which needs to be presented before the court, and it is going to take substantial time. That's what the court mentioned. Number one. Number two, the court has asked him to surrender his passport and report to the police station every Monday like a regular criminal, though he is a financial criminal accused of a fraud. Number three, there are ample evidences because in past when Supreme Court denied the bail, Supreme Court very clearly said that yes, we have ample evidence that Manish Sisodia is linked in accepting money for the bribe in excise liquor policy case. So it is nothing to celebrate. A bail is a right of every Indian citizen till the time the trial is going on. That's what the Supreme Court has said, that it's a sacrosanct right till the time the decision comes. But that doesn't absolve him of his guilt, what he has done. And there is ample evidence in front of the ED, and they will ensure that the speedy trial will continue. Merely getting a bail does not mean that you are not convicted. And by the way, Mr. Kamrul, why you are demeaning Rahul Gandhi? You are saying these stalwart leaders are in a direct line of fire from Modi government, Sisodia, Arvind Kejriwal, Hemant Soren. Rahul Gandhi is also on bail. I won't be surprised if his bail gets cancelled and he goes into jail. Then you will say take Rahul Gandhi's name. So it's better you start with your own leader than to start with other leaders. I mean, you guys are so much habituated to taking shoulders of other people that you're forgetting your leader's name. That's real pity. So it's not a time for celebration, it's a time for retrospection. That what next? How long you are going to evade that?
Let me tell you, viewers, that in the past when bail has been denied to Mr. Sisodia or Mr. Kejriwal or other tall leaders from the Aam Aadmi Party, then the Aam Aadmi Party has raised questions, in fact, against the courts and the process. Let me run you through something that we have found in the past as far as Supreme Court observations are concerned with regards to Manish Sisodia. The Supreme Court observed that Manish Sisodia's formulation of excise policy was meant to give windfall gains to distributors who in turn agreed to give kickbacks and bribes. The Delhi High Court in the past has said that Sisodia abused public authority. Sisodia destroyed crucial evidence. The trial courts have come out and said Sisodia played most important role in criminal conspiracy and deeply involved in the formulation of the policy prima facie. He was the architect of criminal conspiracy. Till a week ago, AAP was questioning the wisdom of the Supreme Court, as we all know, viewers, and the High Court and the trial court. Today, of course, it is celebrating this as the victory of the proof. So there has been inconsistency there. The courts themselves have a view on this particular matter. They haven't gone into the merits, and I do commend Kamru Chaudhary for restricting his commentary to the process rather than, in fact, the nitty-gritty of the case. So, Kamru Chaudhary, I have to ask you this question, because Lalu Prasad Yadav, when he was being tried, was out on bail. He was jailed initially, then out on bail, and then he was convicted, not once, not twice, not thrice, but 5 times in 5 different cases. So one should not immediately come to the conclusion that there is no case, the kernel of the case is weak, etc., etc. Would you not agree, Mr. Chaudhary?
No, Rahul, today's debate or the High Court or the Supreme Court's observation in this particular case, I believe the most important takeaway is the comments on the bail. How the Supreme Court today lamented that the trial courts and the high courts in the country have forgotten the principle that bail is the rule, jail is an exception, and attempted to play safe so far. In this regards, you have cited Lalu Prasad's case, it's a very fine example. But let me cite you the case of Umar Khalid. However you despise him or don't like him, but the fact remains this man is behind bars for the last 1500 days and counting.
Yeah, but you can't compare the two issues because the charges against... One minute, Mr. Khalid, Mr. Kamru Chaudhary, 1 second. The charges that have been brought against Umar Khalid, now whether you agree with the law, the draconian nature of it, you might want, of course, amendments made but the law itself is a very stringent law which doesn't guarantee bail. In fact, the test for bail really is very, very high in that case. So let's not compare apples with oranges. I just want to quickly go across to Akashdeep Muni. BJP spokesperson is also here with us, Ajay Alok. Akashdeep Muni, let me take you back to the 1st of November 2023. At that time, the Supreme Court denied Mr. Sisodia bail. And at that time, Raghav Chadda said, Panchayati Justice, do read this piece that respectfully disagrees with the Honorable Supreme Court's verdict denying bail to Manish Sisodia. This is what he had sort of adduced. And today, of course, he says the entire nation rejoices as the hero of Delhi's education revolution. Manish Sisodia has been granted bail. I express my heartfelt gratitude to the Honorable Supreme Court. So the AAP itself changes its own position depending on the award from the Supreme Court. So it's clearly not very convinced of its own case, isn't it?
Rahulji, I will be just speaking on the comments of Honorable Supreme Court today.
Yeah.
And what the Honorable Supreme Court said today is very scathing against the premier investigative agencies that we have in this country. It seems like that the premier investigative agencies had not been doing their investigation properly, and it seems that they're acting as according to their masters, according to which they are.
No, where is this written there? There it is that, you're saying that you made it very clear to me, no, 1 second, that you were going to tell me what the Supreme Court has said. Now you're adding context which the Supreme Court hasn't, and I don't want to get into trouble, allowing you to continue to put things in the Supreme Court's mouth that it hasn't actually said. Let me then, viewers, tell you what the Supreme Court has said today. Now, I've always believed, however, that bail is the norm and jail is the exception. And I've always here on this show constantly said, let's not read either meaning into these orders that are passed by the courts. When they deny bail, we shouldn't automatically assume guilt. And when they actually grant bail, we shouldn't assume innocence. Now, having said that, let me quickly put down what, in fact, the Supreme Court double bench said today. It said, and I quote, we find that on account of long incarceration running around 17 months and trial having not been commenced, the appellant has been deprived of the right to a speedy trial. And this is the reason that he has been given bail. And the important part here is that there are no real conditions. Unlike in the case of Kejriwal, who was not allowed to attend office, go to his office, visit the office, assume charge, sign files, etc. Mr. Sisodia has not been, there have been no conditions imposed. So that's why I want to come back to you, Mr. Akashdeep Muni. In the interests of fair commentary today, how do you view this particular step that the Supreme Court has taken? Okay, we've lost Akashdeep Muni. Let me go across once again to Huda Zariwala. Let's get her into this. Huda Zariwala, what do you make of the Supreme Court's ruling today, saying that, look, in the interests of granting Mr., which is really his legitimate right, a speedy trial, we cannot hold Mr. Sisodia in prison just because the ED has been tardy?
Absolutely. This comes in at a time where for the past 17 months, there has been absolutely no trail of a trial. He was, in fact, denied a fundamental right in the Constitution. I'm talking about the Article 21 here. His right to life and liberty, his right to a fair trial. He was given none of that for the past 17 months. What was the ED and the CBI doing? Months after months, every single time we had a bail application, they had something to oppose on it. They have lakhs and lakhs of papers. We're talking about crores of rupees, which was, not a single rupee of corruption was established. The money trail wasn't established. So what is, the CBI and the ED even talking about? As far as the BJP is concerned, this saying there's no reason to celebrate, but clearly this is a reason to celebrate, because at the end of the day, we're talking about a sitting deputy chief minister who genuinely has changed the face of the education model in Delhi. This is a gentleman who's genuinely done so much work for the schools, for the education, for the children of Delhi, and you are not able to establish a single rupee of corruption and crime against him. He's languishing in jail for the past 17 months. This is a clear case of political vendetta. This is a clear case of a witch hunt against him. In fact, even Arvind Kejriwal ji is going to be granted, bail very soon. We're very hopeful and we're very sure of that. We're talking about Manish Sisodia ji, who was not even named in any of the initial charge sheets, if you remember. We're
Very
talking
quickly.
about a gentleman.
Ajay Alok.
See, Rahul, I just don't understand that the simple logic is this, that he was in jail for last 17 months because investigations are going on. There are more than 400 witnesses which need to be produced in front of the court. That court remarked today. That is going to take a substantial time for 400 witnesses to come in front of the court and testify. So he got the bail. That's a fundamental right of any citizen. Keep on celebrating. Who stops you?
Yeah.
Because ultimately you are going to land up and face the trial. When you face the trial, you will end up being convicted. And as far as the school goes, there is another scam coming up, the educational scam in Delhi. You guys have taken slates and pencils of the students. It's there in the MCD now also. That's what you have done with the MCD schools. Forget about Delhi government schools. It's nothing. The AAP is the biggest PAP party this country has ever produced. Where Chief Minister, Deputy Chief Minister,
Ms. Zariwala, let him finish. He didn't interrupt you. You had a free run of it, so let him finish. This is common courtesy. 495 witnesses and thousands of documents running into lakhs of pages have to be examined, studied, etc. These people have to be produced before the court, and therefore, since that procedure will take long, the court decided in its exalted wisdom that at this moment there is no need to actually keep Mr. Sisodia incarcerated because the charge sheet, the principal charge sheet has been filed. In fact, Mr. Viswanathan, the justice, came out and in fact made a comment that the last charge sheet came in on the 28th of June, but the Supreme Court was told by the ED that it was in the process of filing a supplementary one, which means that even if the ED felt, unless all charge sheets were filed, the trial can't actually begin. So it's not because there is no evidence. They're just wanting to add more and more supplementary charge sheets, which is taking up time. So I think anyone coming out here, Ms. Zariwala, and proclaiming that Sisodia is innocent would be actually doing a disservice to the procedure laid down by the Supreme Court, as well as, of course, in the CRPC when you go ahead and you prosecute such a case.
You are absolutely correct. There is no doubt about it. And to end with, there are conditions. It's like the only not condition that he can attend the secretariat and he can go to his office. But with any criminal getting bail, there is a mandatory process. You have to submit your passport. That will be taken for seizure. You have to go and report to the police station every Monday. Yeah. What does that mean? What does that mean?
It means that obviously he's still... He's still... Yeah, I mean, in all respects, he's still a suspect, Huda Zariwala, who can't be given free rein. That's basically what is being said.
He's considered criminal, waiting to be proved, which will be proved very soon. And then very soon, all those who are celebrating, they will again keep quiet and mum.
Okay.
I'd like to mention two things over here. I'd like to correct my esteemed panelist. He said that he's a criminal. Our law and constitution clearly states that any criminal or any person is innocent until proven guilty.
He only said he's considered a criminal. He's considered an accused, is what he's meant to say. Yes, go ahead.
And the second thing out here is we're talking about 17 months of him languishing in jail, assuming that he is innocent, which is what the Aam Aadmi Party assumption and the the party line is, and we are very sure of that. will the courts, will the ED, will the CBI, will the BJP be able to return those 17 months of the time that Delhi lost, Manish Sisodia ji lost, his family had to, bear all that trauma and trouble, in his absence. We're talking about a very unfair situation over here because...
No, are you suggesting that a person who has bona fide cases against him should have continued in office under a shadow of such? I mean, you're inverting the principle of political morality completely. There were people in the past, hang on. Today, we all look up to someone like Mr. L.K. Advani, for instance, especially the Congress party that has been championing people like L.K. Advani, sympathetic about the fact that he has now only been reduced to the category of a Margdarshak. L.K. Advani set an important benchmark by suggesting that, look, as long as I am under suspicion, I will not hang on to a post. So I think let's not invert political morality or even morality. I think the right thing to do if you've got cases against you of such serious consequence in nature, and don't forget what the High Court and the Supreme Court have said, even the trial court have said, looking prima facie at the evidence that has been brought before them, the observations that they have made against Mr. Sisodia, they are not to be scoffed at. These are very, very important ones. But yes, I think, one second, Mr. Kamru Chaudhary is raising his hand. Yes, Mr. Chaudhary.
Yeah, basically, Rahul, today's judgment, you must see it in context with what happened with Arvind Kejriwal ji also.
Yeah.
Because as soon as he was about to obtain a bail from the Supreme Court in the ED case, the CBI lost a case against him and arrested him. So what's coming out in the public domain to a layman like me sitting kilometers away from Delhi, and what's actually happened, I also don't know, and many people in this country don't know what's the actual true facts. But the perception that is building out here, that the investigation...
Perception is building. Ajay Alok, respond. This is the perception he's talking about.
The perception is already there. The perception is already there in the streets of Delhi.
Mr. Ajay,
Kamruji,
you have weaponized the investigative agencies. That's the
perception is already there.
That is the bottom line. You have weaponized the investigative agencies against the opposition political parties.
Who has looted Delhi in every aspect, right from water, right from liquor, right from education, right from even tablets, medical tablets, right from hospital. They have looted every aspect of Delhi, right in the Discom. Everything is coming up, and the perception, go and move in the streets of Delhi. Now people are getting water bills.
Rahul, what these people, they will be very selective in picking out the scams. But what happened to the Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra?
One second. Listen, let's just stick to this. Hang on. All those, one minute, Mr. Chaudhary. Look, let's not bring in other cases here. I never raised the case of Rahul Gandhi and others. All cases have different circumstances. No, 1 second. All cases have different circumstances, different points of obvious interpretation. So let's not go there. Let's go by what this particular case has brought out. It has brought out a delay which is unacceptable in beginning the trial, which has led to the courts giving the benefit of doubt to Mr. Sisodia. Has been released on bail. It doesn't automatically mean, because the courts have made it very clear that they are not actually commenting on the merits of the matter. If you just go back in time, viewers, and you look at what the Delhi High Court has said, or even the Supreme Court has said about Mr. Sisodia and his alleged involvement in the Delhi excise policy case, those are not very flattering comments that were made about him. That's the only time when the courts really were looking at the evidence and pronouncing observations on the evidence before them, and certainly that evidence was not trifling and it wasn't easily dismissible. Anyhow, viewers, we don't want to keep going around the bush here, because fundamentally this matter is sub judice. Mr. Sisodia has won a very important relief today. What he does with it, how he sets the narrative with it is important, and whether the people actually at the end of the day believe that narrative is important. Mr. Kejriwal was given bail. At that time, the AAP said, which was in the run-up to the election, that this was a indication that he was innocent, that there was a witch hunt against him, that Mr. Modi had turned into a dictator. The public in Delhi did not respond. It elected 7 BJP MPs. In Punjab, the AAP did not benefit. So let's hold our horses. How this plays out in the public domain over the next few weeks, months, days, we can't say. Let's come back to this story in the days ahead, and let's see what the ED can do to kickstart the trial at short notice. Viewers, let's move on, because there is another very, very important story that has gripped the imagination of the country. It's sad that we've come to such a pass in society, that we've become so divided into our political camps that we cannot even stand up as one for the sake of humanity. Opposition political parties and anti-BJP social groups in India are so committed to the electoral and ideological constituencies that they are yet to unconditionally condemn the genocidal attacks on Hindus in Bangladesh. As we speak, viewers, and you can see those pictures in the middle of your screens where Hindu women, Hindu men are begging for their lives. As we speak, Hindus in Bangladesh are being hunted and then systematically targeted. What was once thought to be a student protest, a mere student protest against Sheikh Hasina government, has assumed the dark hue of a pogrom. And the evidence is leaping out of the screen and slapping us across the face. The most visible expression of xenophobia is borne by the 140-year-old heritage home of a renowned Hindu folk singer called Rahul Ananda in Bangladesh. It was ransacked, looted, and then burnt to the ground. Those are some of the pictures, viewers. The singer and his family have gone into hiding, lucky to have escaped the bigotry of the mob. That is a picture, viewers, also coming in from Bangladesh. The irony is that Ananda was recently a part of a congregation that had assembled to express solidarity with the protesting students, a fact that only establishes that Ananda couldn't have been attacked for any other reason but for his religion. Other attacks bore the sure-shot signs of bigotry, leaving little ambiguity about the motives of the assailants. You can hear those cries, those whimpers, and we've also seen footage which is unverified as of now of women being carried away. There you can see a woman beaten black and blue and left there at the steps of a temple that has been desecrated. So much so that reports have been coming in of violence from across Bangladesh, viewers, from at least 24 districts in a country of about 50 odd districts, viewers. Dinajpur, Jessore, Naukhali, Dhamrai, where temples were attacked, Lalpur, houses vandalized, Meherpur, again houses vandalized, people beaten, thrashed, Dinajpur, shops targeted, Shariatpur, a temple demolished, flattened, razed, in Khulna, several places around Bangladesh, and all of this has been meticulously put together, not by Rahul Shivshankar and the Hard Facts team, but by the Bangladeshi media, which is on the ground. Shocked by the spread of the attacks and apprehensive that the murderous religious persecution of Hindus will assume the proportions that it has in the past, Prime Minister Modi was quick to urge the interim administration in Dhaka to assure the safety of minority communities. The Prime Minister's message, in fact, made it a point to mention his concerns specifically for the Hindu community. This marks one of the first times the Prime Minister has singled out the Hindu community for mention in any message directed at a foreign government. And this speaks volumes about the gravity of the threat. Hindus in Bangladesh have been almost persecuted to extinction. From a 20% plus population in 1947, their numbers are now 7%. In fact, many have fled to India over the years, and we are being told that there are long lines right now of people fleeing Bangladesh trying to cross the border into India. All of them might be Hindus, some of them might be Hindus, many of them might be Muslims sympathetic to the Hasina government. I don't know, viewers. We can't actually count them. They're on the other side of the border, but this is what we are being told. Modi's message was direct: ensure safety of Hindus and all other minorities. hoping Bangladesh will return to normalcy. India remains committed to working with Bangladesh. Peace and security must prevail in the region. The Prime Minister's expression of concern for Hindus in Bangladesh prompted the BJP to take the moral high ground. The BJP targeted the India bloc. Now you can see on the left is Narendra Modi's tweet that has been put out by BJP Shahzad Poonawalla. On the right is Rahul Gandhi's tweet. Rahul Gandhi, who was focusing on Gaza, Narendra Modi, who was focusing on Dhaka and Bangladesh and Hindus, Rahul Gandhi was focusing on Palestine. Yes, the BJP targeted the India bloc parties on their wishy-washy stand on the pogrom against Hindus in Bangladesh. Indeed, the India bloc parties have not shown the same alacrity with which they stood up for Palestinian rights in condemning the atrocities on Hindus in Bangladesh, for example. All eyes have been on Rafah, zero on Dhaka. If anything, the opposition has bizarrely attacked the NDA. Listen in to this bizarre attack by the NDA or by the Congress and India bloc parties on the NDA viewers. Listen in.
What kind of a narrative is this? Of course we have been talking about it. Of course we are raising our voice. But you are in power. What steps are you taking to safeguard the interests of the Hindu minorities in Bangladesh?
पूरी सरकार को इनसे बात करनी चाहिए और कड़ाई सख्ती के साथ इससे बात करनी चाहिए कि वहाँ कोई भी वहाँ पे हिंदू परिवार या हिंदू कोई भी मंदिर के साथ कोई भी तोड़फोड़ ना हो और सख्ती के साथ कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए.
Bangladesh has a number of people who are also opposed to violence against Hindus. There have been good incidents of cases in which temples have been guarded by Muslims, including civilians as well as police and others. I'm certainly hopeful that we will be in a position to see calming down and settling of the situation and safeguarding of minorities.
And safeguarding of minorities, very run-of-the-mill, viewers, anodyne statements, almost platitudinous. Even civil society groups and individual celebrities that supported the All Eyes on Gaza campaign, if you remember, and I can show you all those tweets that were put out, social media posts that were put out, that All Eyes on Gaza campaign in solidarity with Palestinians are missing in outrage. It's almost as if Hindu lives are dispensable. Alia Bhatt, all children deserve love, peace, safety. All mothers deserve to give those things to them. You have Swara Bhaskar. We live in a world that expects us to have a balanced response to babies being beheaded and burnt alive. All of this in the context of the Palestinian-Israel conflict, viewers, nothing, absolutely nothing on the Hindus being persecuted in Bangladesh. Now, viewers, let me also tell you, these are all the celebrities who are talking about that, from Priyanka Chopra, Sonam Kapoor, Radhika Apte, all the Dhavans of the world, everybody. Viewers, they're all out there. The greatest sin of omission, however, is being committed by the mainstream media, both here in India and abroad. Articles have been carried playing down the threat to the Hindu community. Others have whitewashed the excesses by carrying photos of Muslims posing outside Hindu homes, claiming they have formed defense communities. No fact check has been done to rule out the possibility of the photos being released as part of a PR campaign. The New York Times has gone to the extent of normalizing the bigotry. Read those headlines. Hindus in Bangladesh face revenge attacks. Can you believe it, viewers? Normalizing bigotry by suggesting that Hindus somehow invited this scourge of hate upon themselves. It sounds incredulous, but it isn't. You can see it on your screens. Would the NYT ever have said that Palestinians today are facing retributive attacks because they voted in an extremist organization like the Hamas? The answer is a clear no. Let's go straight across to J. Sai Deepak, viewers. He's a lawyer. He's also a champion of Hindu rights, not only in this country, but globally. J. Sai Deepak, thank you for speaking to me. I'm coming straight across to you. How do you react to the pogrom in Bangladesh?
So ever since news started pouring in and I started getting personal messages and emails and all sorts of communication, including on my personal numbers, I was taken aback at the sheer barbarity, ferocity with which Hindus are being hounded out. Initially, most of us assumed, at least I should speak for myself, I assumed that this was a student-led protest on the question of some quota. But as things started unfolding, the suspicion that perhaps this might ultimately find its way back to the Hindu community, because that has been the traditional punching bag in our immediate neighborhood, whether it's Pakistan, Afghanistan or Bangladesh, is something that most of us were wondering if this would happen, but all those fears came true. And the manner in which this has happened, frankly speaking, some of us have had sleepless nights. And I'm not trying to dramatize or to say that all of us are traumatized. Of course, we are traumatized. But the fact of the matter is, people have reached out desperately to whoever they can in the hope that perhaps we'd be in a position to convey the message to our own government to step into the picture and safeguard the interests of the Hindu community there. So I think a lot of people have been reached out to. I'm no exception to this. And that shows the sense of desperation, because people are just hoping, would someone not step into the picture and help us and put an end to this misery? Yes. Frankly speaking, it's not been easy consuming the information and the visual images that have come our way. And I think Bangladeshi Hindus are in for what I think is just the beginning of the iceberg, or the tip of the iceberg in terms of their problems. Considering the people who are leading the so-called revolution, I don't think there is an end in sight in the near future.
Look, I mean, in Bharat, especially in the so-called liberal quarters and among India bloc constituents, there appears to be either whitewashing, burying, or diverting from the issue. Why do you think this is so?
Rahul, the thing is, a few days ago, I happened to speak to another member of your fraternity, and I said that I've long given up hope. I said this in 2021, I said this even way back in 2017, that I have no hopes whatsoever from the left and the secular Jamaat, if I may use those words, because I think their conscience, if at all it exists, is usually in animated suspension whenever Hindus are at the receiving end of this kind of treatment. They manage to find all sorts of justifications, whether it's a matter of history or a matter of the present. Their justifications don't change. Perhaps that is the only thing that they're consistent about. And their hypocrisy, while it used to boggle me previously, it doesn't boggle or shock me anymore. I know for a fact that there is no level that they will not stoop to either deny, pixelate, whitewash, or to find other justifications. And who knows, tomorrow we might be told that just as Kashmiri Pandits paid the price for their prosperity, Bangladeshi Hindus are apparently paying the price for their prosperity. I don't know what prosperity, because at the end of the day, most of these people are poor people. And the drastic fall in their population over the decades should actually should lead to people giving them the benefit of the doubt. But I think that's the exact opposite here. The interesting part is Bangladeshi media has reported very clear, coordinated, systematic attacks against the Hindu community. There are several international observers who are talking about it, notwithstanding the deafening silence from the West. So what is it about the so-called Indian secular liberal left Jamaat that makes it so difficult for them to wrap their heads around the fact that this is indeed an anti-Hindu pogrom, or that some people were perhaps waiting for a certain, let's say, situation to arise where they could finish the unfinished job of kicking out or converting or genociding the remnants of the Hindu population in Bangladesh. That's exactly what has happened. I am not surprised anymore. I genuinely don't care about it. My concern and my energies are spent on how is it that thinking, practicing, concerned Hindus are channeling their energies, their resources, and their will in trying to help or in pushing the government into doing something about this.
Well, that's an important endeavor, but Prime Minister Narendra Modi has appealed. Now, I just want to ask you, objectively, what else can the government really do? I mean, can it do much more legally, perhaps?
I do not claim to be an expert on geopolitics, but allow me to say this. Considering that we have been told consistently, and I think there is an element of truth to it, that the government of the last 10 years has managed to shore up the reputation of Bharat in the international arena and has managed to gain a certain degree of clout, both in the Middle East and outside. I would assume that this is precisely the kind of situation that goodwill would be drawn into for the benefit of the Hindu community. And two, ask yourself this question, and I would expect the viewers to ask this question: have we made a loud enough noise, as we should have, as far as this issue is concerned, on every possible platform, whether it's representation to the United Nations or reaching out to other communities or other countries or allies, so on and so forth? Have we displayed the same sense of seriousness that you think we should have? Simple question is this: whether it's Ukraine or the Middle East, India is expected to take some kind of a position, and it manages to take some kind of a position. Has it reacted to the situation with the same degree of alacrity and vociferousness as it would have in other situations? I'm sorry to say, I am not able to convince myself that it has happened. I don't know how this will land on people in power, but I say this with the noblest of intentions, because at this point, this is not about pulling each other down. This is about asking the simple question: is everybody doing what they can within the limits of their positions to find a way to address the problem, to vocalize the problem, to bring it to the world's attention, so that there is some kind of international pressure that is brought to bear on the dispensation currently in Bangladesh to address this problem? That's the only question that I'm asking. So I'm not interested in a blame game. I'm trying to find a solution within my limited means as a nobody. That's my answer.
Okay, let me just ask you, historically Hindu phobia, Hindu misia, call it what you want to, has not been given attention it deserves in the enlightened West. Why is this so? Sai Deepak.
For a particular sentiment to gain popularity or to find mainstream traction, the first investment is always in the conceptual understanding of it. This is not academic. This is not something that has no bearing with reality or real politics. Understand how the left operates. Every problem is given a certain theoretical core or kernel around which they develop the rest of the strategy. That requires intellectual investment. That requires academic investment. That requires policy investment. That requires a significant amount of writing and research and whatnot on a regular basis. If you do not put any kind of faith and investment when it comes to these kind of pursuits, which ultimately have a bearing in the long run, because narrative is not done overnight, just as Rome is not built overnight was not built overnight, narrative is not built overnight. Soft power is not built overnight. This is the kind of situation where your soft power should have kicked in. It's not about Bollywood, it's not about Basmati, it's not about Taj Mahal, for God's sakes. It is about getting people to speak for you and to stand up for you when it matters. So that is the true test of soft power. That hasn't happened yet. I am not surprised at the kind of support that you've got from the Jewish community in general and the Israelis in general, because that is to be expected. I would say that by now the natural alliance or relationship between India and Israel on certain strategic aspects is a matter of, it's to be taken for granted. But what outside of that? Your soft power needs to make its presence felt outside your immediate zones of comfort. And that cannot happen unless and until there is significant research and investment on the intellectual front.
Right.
And that starts with education. That starts with making sure that you have institutions that are dedicated to these kind of studies. That also means that anyone who is in power values the intellectual effort, because not every effort is to be tested on the anvils of electoral gains, whether it's municipal elections or assembly elections or national elections.
True.
You need to think beyond that when you're looking at developing your own deep state, your own larger game. That's how deep states are established. It starts with thought investment. It starts with intellectual rigor and scholarship.
Well, that hasn't
my point.
Clearly happened to visible effect, or at least effect. So let me just ask you, what do you think of the future of Hindus in the countries of the subcontinent as a whole?
Do you think that the Hindus of Bengal are better off or worse off compared to the Hindus of Bangladesh? You have had examples in 2021. You have had Sandesh Kali as an example. You know that there is an ongoing exodus from several parts of Bengal to Calcutta and away from Calcutta to other parts of the country. That's a reality. You know that there is an ongoing exodus from the northeast of dharmic communities across the board. You know that there's been a massive infiltration of Bangladeshis, that is Bangladeshi Muslims and Rohingya Muslims, across the board in several pockets and islands and enclaves in the country. Now you tell me, other than the fact that we have currently numbers and size on our side for the moment, when do you think we'll arrive at a point where Hindus in India are expected or should expect a similar situation such as Hindus in Bangladesh? This is not fear-mongering, for God's sakes, because being a national majority does not help when you happen to be a local minority. And the best possible example for this is the textbook instance of Kashmiri Pandits. They were a part of a national majority. That did not help them, or for that matter, even Punjabi Hindus for that matter. The number of Punjabi Hindus today is still above 50%, but that has not changed their position with respect to the ongoing rise of Khalistani sentiment that has endangered their life, dignity, property, and faith and their religious institutions. So, जब आपका घर ही ठीक नहीं है और आपको यहाँ पे you're not सुरक्षित here, what सुरक्षा are you going to extend outside? So secure your position within your home, put your house in order. At the same time, try and expand your vision. The point then is your vision must be all encompassing to say wherever Hindus exist, they must be protected, and the Indian state, the Bharatiya state must rise up to their defense and their support in the strongest possible fashion, because this is not a question of size, this is a question of will and commitment and determination and vision. If Israel can do it, why can't Bharat do it with or without the support of anybody else? You cannot aspire to be a Vishwa Guru if these basics are not addressed and you do not have proper response mechanisms to lean on or to coerce any dispensation in your neighborhood from torturing or tormenting Hindu minorities. That should be the first position that you must aspire for. Become at the very least someone who can influence the immediate neighborhood before you can think of becoming a Vishwa Guru. That is how you go step by step.
Well, a clear-eyed assessment from senior advocate J.Sai Deepak. He always speaks very clearly. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. Viewers, he set the narrative there. Think about it.
Takes place. Once the trial takes place, then the value of the evidence comes out. I mean, you can say this fellow has given a statement against you, this person has given a statement against you. All case is made fabricated on the basis of third person's statements. There should be material evidence, incontrovertible evidence to put somebody to this kind of a longer detention in the jail. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Ravi, thank you so much for joining us. Ananya, I wanted to understand from you, he was being probed by the CBI, the Enforcement Directorate, on charges of money laundering and corruption as well. The Supreme Court, as I mentioned, had also said that how there was voluminous documents, there was a lot of paperwork. Then why is it that the trial never began against Mr. Manish Sisodia? Ananya, can you hear me? Okay, Anshul, tell us a little bit more about, the charges on which he was being held and what exactly was the case against him as far as the Delhi excise scam was concerned.
So when this case was initially registered by the Central Bureau of Investigation, initially the basic allegations that were put forth against Manish Sisodia was that he was the then excise minister and he was actually involved in framing of the policy in such a manner that the alleged South lobby could be benefited from this entire policy, not only in terms of giving them licenses but also in terms of the products that were selling. And eventually the deal that was made out that according to the CBI was that the Aam Aadmi Party would receive kickbacks of 6% from the owners of these businesses. That is basically the South lobby who was trying to go in and go ahead with their business out here in the national capital. Now, over the last 2 years, the investigation has been carried out by the Central Bureau of Investigation and by the Enforcement Directorate in this entire matter. More than 8 charge sheets have already been filed. The investigating agencies, while opposing the bail of Manish Sisodia, had constantly said that the investigation is still underway, and Manish Sisodia, being such a powerful member of the Delhi government, he has the power to actually go ahead and tamper with the evidences, and that is the reason why over the past 2 years he was not granted bail by any of the courts. Now today, finally, when the Enforcement Directorate had said that they are reaching towards the end of their investigation and they are on the verge of starting the trial, the Supreme Court observed that there are more than 69 pages of documents that has been submitted by the Enforcement Directorate and the CBI.
Climate change is on our doorstep. It's time for a revolution to take root. And it starts with 1.4 billion Indians. It starts with one tree for humanity, one tree for Mother Earth, one tree for a future. Project One Tree, a News 18 network.
A lot of time for the courts and for the agencies also, for the defense also to go through that document, and keeping Manish Sisodia behind the bars for such a long period is something that is not correct, and that is the reason why the Supreme Court observed that he should be allowed to let go on bail on a bail bond of rupees 10 lakhs. So yes, it remains to be seen when will Manish Sisodia now walk out, but definitely a big relief for the Aam Aadmi Party and definitely for Manish Sisodia, who has constantly been trying to get out from the Tihar jail over the last 2 years.
Interesting. Stay on with me, Anshul. Ananya is back with us. Ananya, you know, it's a significant development. It's a striking verdict. But I wanted to understand for you, in fact, the court has said that the Aam Aadmi Party leader is entitled to a speedy trial, and that it would be a travesty of justice to send him back to the trial court. Now, his case was being probed by the CBI and the Enforcement Directorate on charges of corruption and money laundering. Then why is it in 17 long months the trial didn't happen?
Well, what had happened was, there was an attempt that was made by the Central Bureau of Investigation and the trial court also to actually commence that particular trial. However, the accused person had filed various various applications seeking to inspect either the underlying documents or to seek certain missing documents. And since there was a discrepancy with regards to the documents being supplied, and in fact, certain documents were missing with some accused, and these kinds of problems came to crop up, and hence, it took such a long time actually, in fact, to commence the trial in this particular case, which has still not begun. And in fact, the Central Bureau of Investigation and the Enforcement Directorate have almost completed their investigation. I guess the final charge sheets have already been filed in this particular case, both the CBI and the ED. The Central Bureau of Investigation filing its charge sheet very recently, which would be considered on, in fact, the 12th of July by, in fact, the Rouse Avenue Court of the National Capital Territory of Delhi, that would be commencing the trial in this particular case. And that was the exact reason why, the trials got delayed. But at the same point of time, there were findings from the trial court and the High Court that, there was a deliberate attempt to actually delay this particular trial. However, the Supreme Court has stated that these were not deliberate attempts, but these accused have to be supplied with these particular documents, and because that is something that is required in the interest of justice, and is not a deliberate attempt, and because of that, discrepancy in the documents and documents not being matching, that is something that has led to a delay in this particular trial, because there is a voluminous record of more than 69,000 pages that has been submitted by the investigation agency with regards to in fact, the Delhi liquor excise policy scam case. Remember that the allegations against the former Delhi Deputy Chief Minister is that in the garb of him being the excise minister of the National Capital Territory of Delhi, there was a faulty policy that was that was developed in order to fund these Goa elections, and kickbacks were demanded from the South lobby, and in exchange of those kickbacks, there were favors like the policy amendment that were given to the South group leaders, which include Ms. K. Kavita, Mr. Arun Ramachandran Pillai, and various other people. And both first it was the Delhi Deputy Chief Minister, and later it was the CM also who has to be found to be involved, and he's still inside the jail. But Manish Sisodia, after 17 long months, would be coming out from, in fact, the Delhi's Tihar jail into open air after the Supreme Court stated that he has been denied his right of a speedy trial in this particular case. But the big question that remains at this particular point of time is that whether Arvind Kejriwal, the Delhi Chief Minister, would also be using this particular ground to actually seek a bail later in this particular case or not, is something that would be very interesting and crucial to see.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the court also making some very strong points, saying that keeping Manish Sisodia in jail for an unlimited amount of time, indefinitely, without any trial, is also a violation of his fundamental rights. And I wanted to understand that Manish Sisodia has been behind bars in cases which were being investigated by both the CBI.
This is CNN News 18 and Federal Bank Primetime Studio.
Namaste and Jai Hind, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narsimhan. First up, ladies and gentlemen, in a major breakthrough, the National Investigation Agency has extradited the most wanted pro-Khalistani extremist Tarsem Singh from Abu Dhabi. The CBI located Tarsem Singh Sandhu, wanted for terrorism activities in the UAE. He is now being brought back to Bharat by the NIA via the Interpol. Meanwhile, with more states opening up or facilitating trade of agriculture commodities on the government's electronic National Agriculture Market or ENAM, trade on the Pan-India digital wholesale platform crossed 13,523 crore rupees during the April to July financial year, up 13% on a year-to-year comparison. Bharat, meanwhile, has exported non-basmati white rice worth a total of $122 million in the month of April-May of the current financial year. The government closely monitored the production availability along with the export scenario to assess suitable policy intervention. And credit rating agency ICRA has said medical tourism in Bharat has increased by around 33% year-on-year in 2023, with expectations to surpass the pre-pandemic levels of 700,000 visitors recorded in 2019 in a calendar year 2024. Let's get a move on and our top focus on the right stand this Friday edition. A 1971 deja vu in Bangladesh is witnessed where Hindus were forced to flee a war-torn neighborhood. Hindus are being hounded again after Sheikh Hasina's ouster. BJP is hit out at the Congress over their stunning silence on the matter and asked, while they shed tears for Gaza, why do they choose to remain silent on the Hindu Misya that's on display in Bangladesh? Our second focus, the Waqf Amendment Bill, which was sent to the Joint Parliamentary Committee on Thursday. Who's on the panel? We'll find out later on the show. And will this lead to a consensus or will there be more confrontation?